Let us pray. God and Creator, during this Christmas season, we thank you for families and for our community, and especially for the community gathered here tonight. We know that you're a God who is forever listening to us and loving us. Help us to be like you and listen to each other and love each other, trusting that we all want the best for this town. We especially pray for peace, health, and blessings on this community. We ask all these things in your name. Amen.
Amen. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Okay, could I have a motion to approve the agenda?
I'll make that.
Okay.
Go ahead.
Moved by Bob and second by Stephen.
That'll work.
Any discussion? Hearing none, all in favor, say aye.
Aye.
It's unanimous. As we go into public hearing, we have a couple comments from our Community Development Director, Shannon Baldwin.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I just wanted to read something out of our regulations and then also make a few points, if I may. This is from section 92.019, conditional districts, from our zoning regulations. It says conditional districts are districts with conditions voluntarily added by the applicant and approved in a legislative procedure. So that's what we're in today, is a legislative procedure. By the town council in accordance with NCGS 160A 382. I'm not an attorney, I'm not an expert in law, but our town attorney helped us write the legislation that we passed that we're exercising today. And this is straight from our regulations. Conditional districts provide for orderly and flexible development under the general policies of the town's zoning regulations without the constraints of some of the prescribed standards guiding by right development. Conditional districts may be associated with any land development district and are to be designated by adding the suffix CD to the land development district with which they are associated. Conditional districts are not intended to relieve hardships that would otherwise be handled using a variance procedure. CRZ 2015002 is a rezoning request. If approved, this legislative action creates and applies a new zoning district to parcel with the pin 1650706. And just as with any zoning district, town council must determine what the development standards will be for the new district. In this case, it's Lodgeville Lake Lure R3 CD zoning district. Should council choose to rezone this parcel this evening. Development standards include uses, lot size, setbacks, building height, design criteria, etc. In ordinance 15-12-22, the ordinance before you tonight, and the associated list of standards and conditions that's referenced by this ordinance was carefully crafted by our attorney in close communication with the applicant. Ordinance 15-12-22 establishes the new standards for this new district. So we're creating a zoning district tonight should you pass this ordinance. A conditional district rezoning request does not mandate the level of detailed plans that are required during the construction phase of a project review. However, detailed plans are still required, and this will come later should you approve this zoning district tonight. That is part of the process. Sheila will be reviewing the construction level detail should this district be created. This part of the review process will not be overlooked, forgotten, or neglected. Only conceptual plans are required at this time, and you have those. This is so we can establish the district, the standards, and agreed upon conditions. The requirement for the review and approval of construction phase plans is not waived by the approval of conditional district rezoning. That process will still take place, and review and approval of construction plans will take place prior to the start of construction. As a matter of fact, there will be additional review by our planning board prior to construction. referenced in the ordinance and the associated list of standards and conditions. Construction phase review includes, but is not limited to, stormwater management, erosion control, commercial design, and all other development standards found in our regulations. Mike Egan, the department attorney, has supplied you with a memo that addresses spot zoning. We also received input from a third attorney just this morning regarding this particular issue as well as other issues, and that was sent to you as well. You were given the notes from that particular conference. Just one last point before Sheila is going to cover a little more detail. The application form given to the Lodge on Lake Lure for this request is to be used only as a guide. It has only been used as a guide up to this point to ensure that we have received all necessary plans and submittals for the review that's required by our regulations. Should you elect to move to approve the ordinance before you tonight, a worksheet sample motion has been provided to you that's in your packets now. And Mike Egan reviewed this document as well. It is for your use and consideration should you find consensus around this particular ordinance. Those were just a few points that I felt like were important that we make tonight, and Sheila is going to give you a little more follow-up detail on this process. This process has been lengthy. It started in April, and it's culminated here tonight. Sheila will give you a little more detail.
Good evening. So, as Shannon pointed out, section 92.019 of the zoning regulations outlines the process for a conditional district rezoning in Lake Lure. In your packet, you have a copy of the staff report. That staff report has followed this request from the very beginning. After each step in the process, staff has updated that report, and we just wanted to go over it really quick now and let you know where this particular request has been. So the first step in the process is the pre-application conference. That's an informal meeting. It's a chance for the applicant to meet with staff and pick our brains before they start putting their plans together and to help them facilitate a complete application as quickly as possible. We first met with them on April 30th of 2015, and we just looked at some very conceptual site plans and gave them some feedback on that, and then they went back to work and to work on the final plans that they were going to submit for their request. Step 2 is the completeness review. We initially received the actual application in mid-September, and we worked with the applicant throughout the rest of September and into October, and the application was finally deemed complete on October 9th. Step 3 of the process was the Development Review Committee meeting, the DRC. All of this is in your staff report. Key staff and key members of the Zoning and Planning Board met with them to go over the first technical review of their plans, and there were extensive comments and recommendations made by the DRC members, and all of those are outlined in your staff report, as well as not just at that meeting, but as the plans changed throughout the process, as they met with subsequent boards and subsequent committees, and the plans would change, the DRC would get a copy of those plans, they'd give updated reviews, and that would go into the staff report as well. The next step was the neighborhood compatibility meeting. In accordance with the regulations, we had to schedule that meeting with updated reviews, and that would go into the staff report as well. The next step was the neighborhood compatibility meeting. In accordance with the regulations, we had to schedule that meeting with updated reviews, and that would go into the staff report as well. The next step was the neighborhood compatibility meeting. In accordance with regulations, we had to schedule that meeting with updated reviews, and that would go into the staff report as well. The next step was the neighborhood compatibility meeting. In accordance with regulations, we had to schedule that meeting with updated reviews, and that would go into the staff report as well. The next step was the neighborhood compatibility meeting. In accordance with regulations, we had to schedule that meeting with official part of the conditional district rezoning process, but it was very important in this request because of in a joint workshop with the Lake Advisory Board. Lake Advisory Board is not an official part of the conditional district rezoning process, but it was very important in this request because of in a joint workshop with the Lake Advisory Board. Lake Advisory Board is not an official part of the conditional district rezoning advisory board on their findings at that meeting, and that was when the zoning and planning board also made their official recommendations. Those recommendations were first reported to you last Tuesday on December 15th, and just so that we make sure we get them into the record, we've been asked to give you that report again. Were first reported to you last Tuesday on December 15th, and just so that we make sure we get them into the record, we've been asked to give you that report again. Were first reported to you last Tuesday on December 15th. Create the Lodge on Lake Lure Conditional District on property situated at 361 Charlotte Drive and currently zoned R1. The board moved to make the following findings. The proposed amendment is consistent with the 2007-2027 comprehensive plan. The zoning and planning board incorporates the recommendations of the Lake Advisory Board from their meeting of December 1st, 2015. And the board further moved to recommend to town council that it enact the ordinance creating the Lodge on Lake Lure Conditional District, subject to its review of North Carolina DOT recommendations outlined in the Development Review Committee minutes of October 15th, 2015. Finally, prior to obtaining a certificate of zoning compliance for any buildings, the applicant shall submit plans to the zoning and planning board demonstrating that construction will either comply with design standards for commercial buildings or substantially comply with the design guidelines for new commercial construction. So now the final step in the conditional district rezoning process is the town council review. You first reviewed officially these plans last Tuesday, December 15th. At that time, you made some further recommendations, some agreements with the applicants. And so now we're here tonight for the official public hearing. You're considering ordinance number 15-12-22 with the accompanying list of standards and conditions. And if you choose to adopt that, that will create the Lodge on Lake Lure R3 conditional district, zoning district with these specific standards outlined in the ordinance. All right.
Very good, John. Sheila, thanks. With that, we'll move on to the number 5, the public hearing. Proposed ordinance number 15-12-22, drafted in response to petition number CRZ 2015002, a conditional district rezoning request from Mark Bellissimo with a lodge on Lake Lure. This request involves the following properties: tax pin number 1650706, located at 361 Charlotte Drive. Rezone the entire parcel from R1 residential to R3 CD, Resort Residential Conditional District. So we move into the public hearing, and I'm just going to go down the list and call people forward. And I think you've all seen some of the guidelines. It's up to me to try to maintain decorum. You know, we've, as I said at the bottom of the list, we've seen so many letters. We know most of the issues. We'd like to hear again if there's a particular item that you think that we might learn from, and we want to give everybody a chance to share their thoughts with us. So on number 1 on the list is Vera Lynn. And when you come up, please state your name and address for the record.
Is there a time limit, or you want to read?
Yes, then I think they recognize there's a time limit of 3 minutes, and Chris is our timer.
My name is Verlyn Cox. I live at 324 Snug Harbor Circle. In 1990, 25 years ago, we arrived in Lake Lure to build our home and live here full time. Lake Lure was a dog-eared place with racy politics. known as the Peyton Place of politics in Rutherford County. We went to our first town meeting because it was the best show in town. And it was. Every policeman put his badge and gun on the council table and walked out, and the police chief wept at the back of the room. Our now beloved Lake Lure Inn was shuttered. The arcade building was mostly emptied of business. People with good heart and intentions, but limited resources, thought they could make a pot of gold at the end of the rainbow in the Hickory Nut Gorge. I repeat, good heart and good intentions, but limited resources have turned our area into 7 developments that have been started but not finished. Lake Lure has been left with unfinished dreams because of limited resources and unproven track records. The town now has a chance to say yes to a project backed by resources and a proven track record by a company who will care for and help maintain the water, the mountains, and the culture of acceptance and friendliness of Lake Lure, because it will reflect the goodwill of their business. Thanks to a stable town government and a new generation of caring citizens, our town is no longer shabby around the edges. Our police and fire departments guard our safety. We have a new school, new Ingalls, a new health center, and a flowering bridge getting nationwide attention. Instead of stores closing and buildings remaining empty, businesses will respond to the influx of fresh economy brought about by the Lodge on Lake Lure improvements. 1,000+ full-time residents have chosen Lake Lure as their full-time home. The full-time residents have also voted in the town council, who have chosen the Lake Advisory Board members and the Zoning and Planning Board. Do we want the Lake Lure of the good old, bad old days when it was known as Lake Sewer? No. I urge the town council to vote yes to the zoning changes.
Very good. Very right on time, too. That was perfect. Okay, number 2. Looks like Susie Ellis. You only have 2 minutes left. Start the timer.
My name is Susie Ellis, and I live at 126 North Shore Drive. I've been a permanent resident for 5 years, but have enjoyed family lakefront property since the mid-60s. I love this place and am blessed to call it home. Initially, I was opposed to the original plans for the lodge redevelopment. The proposed lake structures were too big, extended too far into the lake, and had too many boat slips. However, the owners have continued to listen to the community's concerns and have actively changed and modified their design several times. Every major issue and concern of mine has now been fully addressed, and although some still demand more, I feel that the current project is very reasonable and would be an asset to Lake Lure. It could be the catalyst that this community needs to stimulate positive, planned economic growth. For those of you who don't live here, and apparently that's the majority of those that oppose this project, you may not care about economic implications because clearly it doesn't directly affect you. However, as a permanent resident, I believe a healthy year-round economy does truly matter. This time each year, I make all of the angels for the Hickory Nut Gorge Outreach Angel Tree. For the past several years, I have made close to 200 each year for children of families that can't afford Christmas. I don't want to make more next year. This new project will bring opportunities for year-round income for our town. Further, I fail to understand how threats of legal actions protect Lake Lure. Rather, it is a self-serving and divisive measure that fails to consider the big picture of the entire community. Common threads that were noted at a recent Community Vision workshop to update our comprehensive plan were connectivity and community. Even though the rumor mill and strands of inaccurate information are still healthy and strong, I encourage you, Town Council, to consider the facts and actions already taken. The new owners of the Lodge of Lake Lure are committed to being good neighbors. It's time to be good neighbors to them. Thank you for your time.
Thank you, Susie. Number 3, Rebecca Waite.
This is so scary.
Relax, you're okay.
Hello, everybody. My family has owned property at 167 Sheridan Lane since 1959, and my parents came to all of these meetings for maybe 40 years. Dad passed away and Mom can't make it, so I'm trying to represent us tonight. We understand the need for town income and jobs very well, and we know that Tryon Equestrian has been a godsend for Polk County, and thank you. But that does not change the problem of coming into our small-scale, unique lake and obliterating our zoning with no less than 4 major variances, claiming that this is necessary for a successful business plan. I heard the lodge be denigrated, and yes, it sorely needs investment, but the historic nature has worth and is part of our comprehensive plan. In Asheville, buyers now fight each other to invest in decaying historic properties, and that energy is headed here. We are not beggars at Lake Lure. We hold the bags of gold, the view called one of the most beautiful in the world by National Geographic. Lake Lure is a unique gem poised for growth, and Mr. Bellissimo, you will not be the first or last. We are the stewards. Investment can happen in a manner respectful of our planning for decades. But in the short term, if a restaurant is put so conspicuously in the buffer itself, it will be an ongoing lightning rod for controversy in an area no one else is allowed to touch. The town may have to change its phone number in the spring when residents return. This sets the town up for conflict and litigation. Mayor Keith, with much respect, I ask, why not more back and forth? The tenor of the last meeting surprised me. If this project is truly transformative, let's get it right. More input from citizens, not less. Many residents are not here this time of year, and part-time residents pay taxes too. We are frankly stunned that our regs can be wiped out so easily by one project, and the precedent being set is very concerning to us. A compromise to move the restaurant out of the buffer would help melt away opposition and bad PR. Mr. Braun, you mentioned that there are only about 100 people in this room at the last meeting, but these 100 will fan out, and not a few of them have an impression of unfairness, and some live here full time. That's not good for the town, and it's not good PR for Tryon. Mr. Bellissimo, with much respect, you have the power to take all of these people out of the hot seat. Please consider becoming a local hero in a broader way, known for your willingness to cooperate even more with locals, even those of us that are currently being annoying. I do believe there is every intent to create a beautiful project with jobs. All we are asking is that it be more in scale with the site. Moving the restaurant helps accomplish this. Maybe in this special season, we could draw back from a purely business viewpoint, consider the community as a whole, both the people in favor and those with concerns. Everyone go home and sleep on it and look at this with fresh eyes in January. That is what I asked my daughter to do. That is what I asked my daughter to do when there is discord in the family, and it helps every time. Thank you, everyone, and Merry Christmas, and thank you for all you do. And thank you.
Thank you, Rebecca.
Thank everyone.
Catherine Proctor.
Good evening. My name is Catherine Proctor, born and raised here in Lake Lure. I live at 328 Boys Camp Road. I'm in the food and service business, and when I looked at the plans for the development of the Lodge of Lake Lure, I was very surprised to see that the parking plan does not make spaces for the allotted tables, chairs, and bar that will most certainly be put on the new decks and patios. The proposed plan shows over 7,000 square feet of decks and patios. Are you really going to ignore over 7,000 square feet of potential serving space? The parking plan is already inadequate even without the extra serving space on the decks and patios. And with the extra inflow of these people coming to be served there, parking will certainly become an issue. So where do the patrons park? Do they park a quarter mile down the road in the overflow parking, or do they park on the side of the already too narrow road? I'm assuming they're going to drive around and look for the closest available space, only furthering the traffic issues on Charlotte Street. If the town does decide to go forward with this conditional district zoning, I do urge you to please at least take the second restaurant off of the lakefront. The variance of the second restaurant greatly exceeds, the variance of the second restaurant greatly exceeds what a conditional district should be allowed to do, and will only put this town through further unnecessary lawsuits while also continuing to polarize our community and stifle any further discussions on how to properly develop our beautiful lakefront. Thank you very much. Happy Yuletime. Merry Christmas.
Very good. Thank you, Catherine. I think next is Janet Walters.
Good evening and happy holidays. I'm Janet Walters. I live at 418 Chapel Point Road. A lot of people have made comments earlier on about how long they've been here and why their comments are important, that they love this area and so forth. So I'll just say that my family's been trying to be here since the late 20s when the lake was first developed and was supposed to be a resort. Finally, my family visited regularly since 1960. Every summer we'd rent houses along the lake and had grand time. Finally, I bought property in '96 and have paid taxes and voted here since 2010 when we moved here full time. The council's had email from me, so they've heard from me about the fact that I would like to see this, this project go forward. And the reason I'm not directing this at you all, so you've all heard my opinion, I'm directing this at the people in the audience tonight because I know that most of the people here in the past meetings have been very vocal against the project. And the thought is that I've heard even some of the council people voice that because so many people are vocal against it, they're beginning to think that nobody wants it. And I wanted to speak tonight to say that my friend Susie Ellis, who spoke earlier, and my friend Vera Lynn Cox, who spoke earlier, really have said all the things that I was probably going to say. So I won't go into all of those again. Suffice it to say that the project will be a good development for this town. The developer has bent over backwards to address most of the issues that have come up to my satisfaction, obviously not to the satisfaction of everyone. I wasn't vocal early on because I have a lot of good friends who live proximate to the property, and they're more directly influenced, or their lives will be by this development. And I wanted them to have a chance to make all those concerns known and to have the developer address those questions. I wasn't going to get up and say rah-rah-ree in the very beginning because I had concerns too. But I will say I've been to most of the meetings, and I do think that most of the concerns have been addressed. The aesthetic questions, the legal questions. I was concerned about the road. I was happy last time to hear that they're going to make some monetary contribution to fix the road. I think Charlotte Road really needs to be addressed. So in any case, I won't take any more of your time, but I just wanted both council and the public here to know that many of the people I talked to haven't come forward to say they're in favor because they don't want to hurt the feelings of their good friends and neighbors who will be impacted by it and who are not in favor. But there are many of us out there who are in favor, and I think we're the silent majority. Thank you.
Thank you, Janet. Linda Turner.
Good evening. My name is Linda Turner. I live at 211 Hawks Nest Trail. I'm here to add my support for the proposed renovations to and around the lodge on Lake Lure. We've been full-time residents here for nearly 15 years. We've seen many developments start and stall out, leaving behind a trail of abandoned, overgrown properties. We've seen businesses rise and fall, good businesses, that don't succeed because Lake Lure struggles so hard to sustain a 12-month economy. Now we have a developer with a proven track record, bringing to Lake Lure a plan to restore a faded but well-loved property to new glory. A plan that will provide jobs, bring an active and engaged clientele to town year-round, and add to the tax revenues. And as if that weren't enough, this developer has been ready, willing, and able to listen to our concerns and adjust the plans to accommodate us, while still ensuring that the investment remains financially sound. This project, when fully completed, with all the landscaping that makes such a difference in softening the hard edges of infrastructure, will become a thing of beauty and a true blessing to this town. I urge you to approve this property development plan.
Thank you, Linda. This is interesting. Logan and Sonora, Hartzog. We're going to get it in stereo. For a combined 3 minutes, right. It's not 6 minutes. Very good.
Yes, thanks, Rick. My name is Logan Hartzog. This is my younger sister, Sonora. We've lived here for a little over 20 years. In fact, Sonora was born on the living room floor. It was kind of gross. Sorry.
I didn't have a say in the matter.
But anyway, so we love this place. We have a vested interest in living here. And when this issue came up, we got to read a letter that our dad sent to you, because he's the director of the Chamber of Commerce. And I felt like, or we both felt like, you received this letter, but we felt like the public should hear what he said in the letter too, because it was well worded. Anyway, I wanted to read that to the audience. Dear Mayor and esteemed commissioners, as Executive Director of the Chamber, I'd like to present to you the organization's position statement regarding the expansion of the lodge on Lake Lure. The Chamber is business friendly, and as part of our charter is called to promote economic development. However, it does not do so with a business at any cost mentality. As a matter of fact, our board of directors and business members are quite discerning when it comes to developing new businesses within our market area. We look carefully for the right fit and the right partners that want to join our special community. Our town needs sustainable business that will contribute to the unique fabric of the gorge, blend it into the lifestyle, and provide job opportunities for our citizens. We as a community must grow the number of substantive business partners in order to strengthen our tax base, stabilize seasonal cash flow, and provide opportunities for younger families to make a living. It is from this mindset that the Board of Directors of the Chamber of Hickory Nut Gorge is unanimous in its support of the project submitted by the owners of the lodge on Lake Lure. Taking into consideration the valid concerns voiced by our members and citizens and the willingness of the petitioners to respond to the concerns with appropriate adjustments, the Chamber is confident that the project will have lasting benefits to our community while adhering to the standards set forth by the town of Lake Lure and our own mission statement. We are confident in knowing that the application process has been transparent, exceedingly thorough, and detailed, vetted by legal counsel and town staff, and carefully considered by 2 advisory boards, both of which overwhelmingly voted in the affirmative. It has been open to the public through public meetings as well as online in the town's website. The board is further assured that the applicant responded with incredible sensitivity to citizen concerns and made many revisions to the original plan. The Chamber has spent more than a year in over a dozen meetings and workshops with the owner and his staff, and is convinced that our town cannot find a better economic development partner. Sincerely, Tommy Hartzog. And then I also like the mission statement of the Chamber, which says, our mission is to promote economic progress and quality of life in the Hickory Nut Gorge community while helping to protect the natural integrity and unify the communities of the gorge. The Chamber is a catalyst for the creation of activities and opportunities for both visitors and residents. It promotes an atmosphere that encourages visitation. I'm sorry, I absorbed all her time, but anyway, thank you.
Thank you, guys. Woody Turner?
Good evening. My name is Woody Turner. I live at 211 Hawks Nest Trail. I've been a resident here in Lake Lure since 2002. I want to read my December 15th email sent to Mayor Bob Keith, Chamber President Kevin Cooley, and Town Manager Chris Braun which is in support of the Lodge on Lake Lure project, hopefully will be voted on tonight. Dear Mayor Bob Keith, Chamber President Kevin Cooley, Chamber Executive Director Tommy Hartzog, I fully support the very well-stated emails that both Tommy Hartzog and Kevin Cooley sent regarding their personal and Chamber's combined support for the Lodge on Lake Lure rezoning and the conditional use plans for developing this site. This plan is a significant and highly beneficial venture for the future of Lake Lure and the Gorge communities because it will do the following: grow Lake Lure's economy and create long-term job opportunities for tourism professionals. It will promote future tourism and the potential increase of permanent residents, both of which will enlarge our tax base to help support important town projects. Thirdly, it will expand the demand for increased cultural and recreational opportunities in the Gorge. Fourthly, over time, it will attract a cross-section of visitors predisposed to living and raising families in the Gorge, which will bring gradual demographic change so vital to sustaining year-round growth of the Gorge communities. And lastly, it will build important business relationship with the Tryon Equestrian Center and its customers who seek the recreational and cultural venues which the Gorge offers. Based on the recent concessions, changes, and redesigns that the Tryon developers have made to the construction and development plans, they seem committed to accommodating the issues and concerns raised by the Gorge residents who have objected to this project. This attitude, to me, sets the tone for a cooperative and collaborative construction period and self-induced conditional use provisions once the project is completed. Thank you for your time, and I think that the way this has been conducted over the weeks and months has been very thorough and quite a compliment to the government of Town of Lake Lure. So I support you.
Thanks, Woody. Kathy Boff.
Good evening. I'm Kathy Boff. I live at 238 Snug Harbor Circle, and I'm a full-time lakefront resident here in Lake Lure. I come tonight to support the Tryon Equestrian Partners' request to make improvements to the lodge at Lake Lure. I have heard and read thoughts many times on this issue. Some have left me shocked, in disbelief, and disappointed, but others have left me encouraged and hopeful. We've lived here full-time for 3 years. First and foremost, I understand that the lodge has been in that location since the 1930s. It has always been a lodge, and for that matter, was and still today a commercial property. A residential neighborhood likely developed around it, not the other way around. Secondly, we live in a community that is primarily supported by tourism and outdoor activities. I have read that individuals don't believe this should be considered economic development because it will only create service jobs. As far as I can see, service and professional jobs are the only ones around here. That is to be expected in a resort, second home, vacation, and retirement community. I don't see any big employer or major industry coming to Lake Lure, and I don't know how they'd ever get through this process. And finally, we must all recognize that the opportunity for an investment of this magnitude may not come to our doorstep again. Many may be silently saying, great, let's hope so. But I say do not turn TEP away due to ordinance issues. I'm no expert on those. I leave that to the members of this council. I know that there are likely many people here who have faced the need to get a variance or make a compromise in order to make updates on their unique properties. Our town council has a responsibility to do what's right, not only within their powers and legal boundaries, but also making sure that opportunities for growth and development do not slip away. Residents here speak of this issue bringing polarization and division to our community. Many want nothing to change. Change is inevitable, but suffering is optional. We all go through life changes. Nothing stays the same. Those that oppose this change seem to find no room in their perspective for compromise. Those in favor continue to acknowledge the efforts to reach middle ground. We live on a beautiful lake. Every day the lake changes. It's fluid. Our town and community members need to be fluid, must be able to tolerate change. If not, our town will stagnate like water that doesn't move, and no one wants to live in an unpleasant state of stagnation. Thank you.
Thanks, Kathy. Is Kara, have you arrived? Kara? Okay. She called in, said she'd be arriving late, so I put her as number 10 on the list.
Good evening. I'm Kara Meisenheimer at 466 Charlotte Drive, where we have a second home used in all seasons. Thank you, town officials, for hearing this input, and it's nice to see so much interest in the lodge. However, as property owners on Charlotte Drive for more than 50, that's 50 years, we're strongly against this rezoning. In our view, the scope of the proposed development, which we've heard about in a lot, including approximately 70 space parking lots at different points separated along Charlotte Drive, is out of balance with the size and proximity to the surrounding community. We feel that the aggregate level of non-residential activity and congestion resulting will be inescapable for the properties in this closed residential loop, regardless of potentially widening the road. And we would also see the neighborhood's longtime gateway, bringing one away from the highway, converted into a commercial thoroughfare. The zoning request seems to be dependent on having a multitude of commercial uses granted, in which many of the protective regulations and those conditions are being relaxed or released, and it would not exist in its own space, but we overlaid on an established landscapes of homes and cottages, and many of the restrictions that protect those would be not in place. As others have noted, the noise, light, lakeside shoreline disturbance, and traffic are additional concerns, and we feel that given the expanse of the development, those would be difficult to minimize. From our standpoint along Charlotte Drive, this zoning with its multiple conditions and departures from both the protective code and from standard R3 hotel hospitality is inconsistent how we see the comprehensive plan and the future land use projections. It also places commercial development directly onto existing residential, and that only on a small enclosed strip of land. Surely there are opportunities for economic advancement, such as ecotourism, where the draw of the commercial element could be one that blended in. Thank you.
Thank you. Steve?
Sure, props aren't as good as yours.
Hard to handle.
Just put it up on front. Oh, that's okay. Well, good evening. It's nice to be back with you guys again, and I really mean that. In fact, I wore my Christmas socks just to show the spirit of the season here. I guess first order of business, and what Craig is unfolding is a map. I want to deliver to you a protest petition with the signatures of 188 people from Lake Lure who are opposing the petition as it stands in front of you today. And the purpose of the map is to show where those people live and the density of those, both, all over the lake and surrounding the lake. At the outset, what I'd like to say is, I and the organization that I've been representing here, Protect Lake Lure, we are not against the development of the lodge property. That is not what we are against. And in fact, we respect Trion Equestrian Partners, and we believe that they will do a good job with what it is they're allowed to do. If you look at where the names come from, you will see strong opposition coming from the surrounding neighborhood. Now, I've talked to Chris a little bit about what's the definition of surrounding. Back when people were invited to come to the community updates or inputs, because I live across from the lodge, I'm not considered surrounding, but I would argue that frankly, anybody on Holmes Road across from the lodges is affected by what is being proposed as anyone living next door to it in Charlotte Drive. So at this point, I guess you may be, and I've heard the comments about legal, and as I said at the outset here, we're not against having some form of development on this site. And the reason to have legal involvement at this point is to try to get the facts on the table, to try to ensure we get a voice at the table, so that we have time to look at what is the appropriate amount of development to fit on a 2.37, I think it is, acre site. And so that we can work out a plan that works for the town, works for the surrounding neighbors and residents, and works for the owners of the lodge. If we get all three of those, we will win, and I believe we can still do that. I would tell you the ongoing issues probably still surround the second restaurant, be it on the boathouse or now on the shore, that comes into play with the focus of noise and traffic and congestion, and to some degree about the permanent slips. Although I think in the end, the restaurant, the secondary restaurant is the primary area of concern. I'm very pleased that the road issue got on the table over the course of the last couple of weeks, and I think you guys have it square in front of you, and I'm confident you're going to deal with that from what I heard last week. So I would implore you to explore the further options to bring the scale down, to find things that work for all three constituencies, and take the time to do that in a manner which takes into account the multitude of input that you're receiving, that we can find a great project for Lake Lure. Thanks for your time.
Steve. And I have next up, at the same address, Craig Justice. Thank you for moving into our town, Craig.
You're welcome. How many in this audience lives in a residential neighborhood? Just raise your hand. How many of you live in a neighborhood that's zoned R1? Now imagine if you learn that Larkins is going to pick up their operations and move smack dab in the middle of your neighborhood. Would you be upset? Imagine if Lake Lure Inn decided they were going to move their operations smack dab in the middle of your neighborhood. Would you be concerned? It's a little rhetorical, but this, the reality is this project is no different than that. It's no different than Larkins picking up 200 seats and moving it smack dab in the middle of this neighborhood in question. It's no different than Lake Lure Inn picking up 40 rooms and moving smack dab into the middle of this neighborhood. And would you be also concerned if you were told all the development standards that were meant to protect you are being waived? Now you realize why there's a lot of concern and why we're opposed to this particular application as it's being presented. Now, I have letters that I've already previously given, but I'm going to give hard copies to everybody that we would like to be included as part of the record and has exhibits. There's also an additional letter that has some exhibits attached to it. And at the end of the letter, this is what I say. This is being certainly said that is a very important project for the town of Lake Lure. Our folks have a lot of concerns. We would like everybody to take a step back, and we would like to have a mediation with developer representatives in the next 30 days and see if we can come to a compromise. And I ask you to allow for that to happen. Because if you vote on this and approve it, by law we have 60 days to wonder about whether we should challenge it or not. That is the law. Please don't force our hand in trying to make those decisions, and allow us 30 days just to take a step back and try to come up with a mediated resolution. That is what we ask. And at the end of the day, I would ask if you've studied what purposes and things you're supposed to concern yourself with, they're all set forth in 160A 383. I know y'all have that by your bedside because you go to bed thinking about those things. And those things that talk about zoning purposes and what you're supposed to consider talk about property values, talk about public safety, talk about public health. Let's talk about the most appropriate use of property and how you achieve that and compatibility. And again, if you were told that Larkins wanted to move into this neighborhood, Lake Lure Inn wanted to move this neighborhood with its inadequate surrounding infrastructure, smack dab in the middle of an R1 zoned neighborhood,
would you think you would be protecting public safety, public health, preserving property values? I think you would be a little bit concerned. As Steve indicated, there are compromises that can be made if given the opportunity. We would like that opportunity. So I'm going to have, Mr. Mayor, if may, I'll just hand this up, all this information.
Just leave them there. We can pick them up.
All right. Sounds
Okay.
good. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Craig. Amy Massey, did I get that right?
Also the same address.
He's at 456 Holmes Road. These are all at 456 Holmes Road. I guess they all live there. Amy Massey, oh, you're here.
Yes,
Thank
sir.
you.
My name's Amy Massey. I'm with Kinley Horn and Associates Incorporated, and I'm actually based in our Rock Hill office, Rock Hill, South Carolina office, and I'm a professional engineer in the state of North Carolina. At the request of the Van Winkle Law Firm, Kinley Horn has performed a review of the potential traffic impacts associated with the proposed expansion of the Lodge on Lake Lure relative to the conditional district rezoning. Kinley Horn has reviewed the following documents: the General Development Plan, the report from town staff with NCDOT comments embedded, and also the preliminary traffic impact assessment for the Lodge on Lake Lure by J.M. Teague Engineering and Planning. We've also discussed this with NCDOT and visited the site, of course. So based on our review, we offer the following traffic-related opinions, and there's really 4 basic concepts here. Number 1, we concur with NCDOT and J.M. Teague that site distance at Memorial Highway needs to be improved to meet national standards. We actually recommend that speed studies be performed to confirm the actual standard that would need to meet. And just a note, I'll stress, while we understand this is an existing condition, the additional traffic would also create additional exposure to the existing substandard condition that's out there today. Number 2, we believe that an eastbound left turn lane on Memorial Highway may be warranted based on NCDOT guidelines. We're actually recommending that the preliminary traffic impact assessment would be updated to make a determination based on actual peak hour counts and accepted traffic engineering standards. Number 3, we concur that widening Charlotte Drive to a minimum of 18 feet with centerline striping and 3-foot shoulders within a minimum of 7 feet clear zone on both sides. Okay, so that's a total of 32 feet between the actual pavement, the shoulders, and the clear zone width. Again, while this is an existing condition, additional traffic that would be created by this proposed expansion would create additional exposure to an already substandard condition. And last, we agree with NCDOT that the Storm Ridge and Lake Ridge intersections with Charlotte and the Lodge access points be improved. That's basically in terms of the width of those roads, the location, meaning the distance between the roadways themselves, and the alignment angle be improved. And those are our opinions. Thank you.
Very good, thank you. They should be helpful to us. 14, Mark Morris. Morris. I think it's Morris, isn't it? It was Eisenbrown's penmanship. I was trying to read it, so.
My name is Mark Morris. I'm a real estate appraiser in Asheville, North Carolina. I do own a home here in Lake Lure and Lake Lure Village Resort. I don't know the address. I don't get mail here. I just know I live here. It's a cabin. I've lived here since 2012. I love it. Been on the lake just about every weekend during the summer, so I see a lot of activity. I see things that occur and come and go. The purpose of my being here today for the council is to present the results of an impact study. I have been hired by the Van Winkle Law Firm to do an analysis of property values that would be impacted by the proposed project or the expansion of the proposed project. The valuation analyzed properties, 3 properties specifically, one property that adjoined the lodge immediately to the south, one property that was one off a lot immediately to the north, and then one property that was located on the opposing side of the lake on Holmes Road. The function of the appraisal was to estimate and opine an opinion of value before and after. The before value would make the assumption that the lodge was not expanded. The after value would be based on the assumption that the lodge, as presented in the current development plan, most recently posted to the website, the impact that it would have to the values of those three properties specifically mentioned. The study required paired analysis. I went into the market, I analyzed data. The data that I chose were properties primarily located along Buffalo Shoals Road in close proximity to the Rumbling Ball development, which had across the water views of the marina, of the restaurant operation of the beach, and of the commercial operation of Rumbling Ball. Also identified properties that were impacted both before and after, with and without an influence, located on Neighborly Drive. One property specifically sold for $875 in the last few years. Property was initially built at a cost of about $1.1 million. Was on the market quite a period of time. And all of the comparable data in my report was based on confirmations. It is credible information. It is compelling information. My purpose is to observe, analyze, and report. I don't try to interject my personal thoughts into it, but I'm very confident the evidence is compelling that there is a negative and detrimental impact for properties immediately affected by the proposed project in very close proximity. The results of this study, I think Mr. Justice presented, or may have presented the report to you. The results, I studied these properties, and based on my conclusions of value, I'm of the opinion that properties that would suffer from the view influence, the range of compromise would be 3 to 10%. So you have the results of my study. I appreciate the opportunity to speak.
Okay. I assume, Craig, that report's in that document. You don't need to get up. It just say yes or no answer.
Yes.
Okay, thank you. Thank you. I think we'll find that valuable. Okay, number 15, Karen? Karen Knob? Is she here? Yep, here she is.
Hi, I'm Karen Naub, 347 Lakeview Road. Although I am opposed to this plan, I can accept it if it's truly the wishes of the majority of Lake Lure residents. I've heard many times from Chris Braun how the commissioners and the mayor have to listen to and vote on all the wishes of all of the community, and that the letters that have come in from Protect Lake Lure only represent a small portion of the people. But I still haven't seen the proof of the majority that are in favor of this. And I would hope that we're voting on the majority. I saw one woman who spoke and said that there's more people in favor, but they're afraid to stand up, and I'm having a hard time believing that, because people here are speaking their mind no matter what it is. You are elected officials, so please vote with the majority of the people. You've also said how upfront this whole process has been, yet I've had to wonder why all the commissioners who have to vote here tonight have not been invited to all of your meetings from the very beginning. This could be a wonderful project and bring many good things to our town. It's in my opinion, though, that it's too grand for this location. What makes Lake Lure special is the small town throwback feel it has. That is what I believe attracts visitors, many of them who return year after year to capture that childhood feeling they had, with the hopes of passing it on to their children and their grandchildren. Thank you.
Thanks, Karen. Okay, Nancy Anderson? You have an AKA, I can't read it, 'cause,
My property's still deeded by another name,
okay,
but it's me.
okay. I just, it's because it got squashed in there. So,
Just trying to confuse everybody. Good evening, my name is Nancy Anderson, and I own a 1940s fishing cabin, plus 2 adjoining lots, 3 doors up from the lodge, and I wasn't invited to the neighborhood meeting. Didn't know about it. This is not where I wanted to be tonight. I wanted to be at a holiday Christmas dinner, but I know you're probably the same way. However, I couldn't not be here for one last chance to express my feelings and concerns regarding the developer's proposal for the lodge and our lake neighborhood. As one who will be directly affected by any overdevelopment, hindered views, increased road and waterway traffic on one of the tiniest roads and the narrowest channel on the lake, and then add resort lighting, which will be on 24/7, noise issues in the evenings from 2 restaurants, and patio events such as weddings, I feel like my quality of life at Lake Lure is, and my neighbors as well, is greatly at risk. And without at least some restrictions put upon this project, we might never get that back. I know that when we bought the property 10 years ago, we knew it was in close proximity to the lodge. But we trusted the town's desire to regulate the zoning in this populated residential area. And the direction that the town council took with the comprehensive plan further assured us that their vision for Lake Lure, your vision for Lake Lure, was our vision too. Not to overbuild, over-commercialize, or put the natural resources and the beauty at risk. I can't imagine a developer buying a piece of property knowing that the grandiose plans he had for it were so out of line with the town ordinances. He had to be aware that he might not be able to do all the things he wanted to do. Minor variances for 1 or 2 proposals is certainly understandable, but much of what you are proposing seems to require a major variance of one sort or another. For example, the structures are too high, they're too long, they're too wide, they're too close to the water. Apparently, you were drawn to the area for some of the same reasons that we were. The ambience of Lake Lure is so very, very special and unique. But many of us fear that this plan, as is going to compromise a lot of what we love. I respectfully ask the commissioners and officials to tighten the reins a bit on this project and seek an outcome that will be in the interest of all of us. We have history in this community and a substantial financial investment, and we pay thousands of dollars in property taxes every year. I agree the town would benefit from the added revenue, and I don't want more angels on the tree either next year. But I also feel that Lake Lure should not have to make so many of these changes to adapt to a developer's proposal, and perhaps Mr. Bellissimo and his partners could make a few additional changes himself to adapt to Lake Lure and coexist reasonably with your new neighbors. Thank you for your time and for all of your service to the community. Merry
Thanks,
Christmas.
Nancy. Merry Christmas. Okay, 17, Molly Oakman.
Hello, I am a lifelong resident of Rutherford County, and my family has owned a lake home on North Shore Drive for over 30 years. I've grown up on this lake, and now I'm fortunate enough to share that with my family. I am also a proud employee of Tryon Resort. Yesterday, I celebrated the holiday season with over 100 employees at Tryon International Equestrian Center. We work hard for an organization and partners that we have respect for, and we eagerly take on projects with passion and enthusiasm because the passion our partners have is contagious. We have been given the opportunity to have well-paying careers without traveling outside of our hometowns. The career I have been blessed with through Tryon Equestrian Partners has forever changed my life. However, the majority of people I feel that are reluctant to accept this project are not directly affected by the economic growth of the project. Most people voicing their concerns against it come to the lake several weeks out of the year and leave, and are not considering the year-round residents and businesses that can benefit from this project. I chose to speak tonight to help people realize the value of this project and what it brings to the local area, and me as a local tax-paying resident of Lake Lure. The term economic growth is very personal for me. As a result of my job, I have a direct and indirect effect on this local economy. Because of the paycheck I receive, I get my hair done next door with Tanya Malloy at Hair Therapy. I bought my father's Christmas gift at Bubba O'Leary's. I took my children gym mining at Chimney Rock, and I can treat my mother to her favorite burger at Larkin's. And trust me, I spend money at Ingles grocery shopping. The paycheck I receive as an employee of Tryon Equestrian Partners is put directly back into this local economy. The job creation that Sharon so passionately discusses in this project matters to me and over the 300 employees that we currently have on payroll at Tryon International. The 20-plus jobs created will make a difference in this community. If the rezoning is granted, then an estimated number of seasonal jobs will have an impact. The visitors will bring disposable income to their travel, fishing trips will be booked, meals and merchandise will be purchased at local businesses, and more tax money will flow into our area for much-needed improvement like dredging the lake. The town has known that Charlotte Drive needs improvement for several years. Mr. Bellissimo has volunteered a portion of this cost for improvement. When have we ever known a developer to offer the town assistance? It's usually the other way around, with the developer asking for incentives and tax breaks. I personally appreciate the fact the partners want to significantly invest in our community, and I hate to see us pass up this opportunity. A community somewhere will benefit from Mark's vision, like Polk County has done with Tryon International Equestrian Center. I think we should consider the track record of the applicant, and I feel that the Tryon International Equestrian Center more than speaks for itself for the quality of development this organization is capable of providing to this community. I hope you will consider the opportunity for economic development for this community and the people that live here.
Very good. Thank you, Marley. David Forrester.
Good evening. Thank you for this time. My name is David Forrester. My wife Edna Morris and I own a house at 269 Charlotte Drive. We've owned that residence for approximately 15 years. We also own a series of lots surrounding that residence. I believe, I haven't checked the town records, that we are probably the largest landholders on Charlotte Drive. My wife and her family are from Rutherford County, 4 generations worth. Her family still lives here, most of her family, and we are very involved and committed to this area. One of the concerns we have, as we've spent the last 30 years coming back to Rutherfordton and Lake Lure, is what we feel is a significant decline in the economic well-being of Rutherford County in general and Lake Lure in particular. And we think that it is imperative for the good future of the residents and the children of this area that we make some progress in critical areas. We applaud the work done on the school. We think that's a major blessing for the community. We think jobs are the next significant thing that has to happen for this community to advance. And as neighbors of the project, we think that this project has the potential, particularly with the very good stakeholdership of the owners, to be nothing but a benefit to the community. We do acknowledge that the neighbors of the project have concerns, and to our best ability we should address those concerns. I think many of those have been addressed. But overall, this project is without question in the best interest of the town. Thank you.
Thank you, David. Robin? Pass. Jim Proctor?
My name's Jim Proctor. I live at 328 Boys Camp Road. In the past week, I've talked to the mayor, all 4 commissioners, the town manager, and the spokesperson for the developer. I've also sent several emails with information about how this development does not comply with our regulations and comprehensive plan. So instead of going over this information I've already voiced, I will go straight to the bottom line. If the developer is honestly sure that he will develop a good product, he should have no problem with temporarily taking the second restaurant at the Shoreline off the table. This would give him a chance to build most of what he wants and let our community see what it will actually look like. If the developer has any concern whatsoever about the negative impact this controversial development plan has on our community, he will not have a problem taking the second restaurant temporarily off the table. If the town council is sincerely more concerned about our town than a development business plan, they will take the second restaurant off the plans. If the town council is concerned about the continual negative impact of continued litigation, they will take the second restaurant off the table. Here's an opportunity for the developer and the town council to do what is best for our community. Now all we have to do is wait and see how the town council votes. I truly hope you will put our town first, but as you know, the choice is yours. Thank you. Merry Christmas.
Thank you. Thank you, Jim. Pat Beatty?
My name is Pat Beatty. I live at 2153 Memorial Highway for 15 years. While deciding how to vote tonight, I urge you to look at the town's comprehensive plan. The comprehensive plan in section 10.0 Natural Environment and Open Space Policy NE-4-1.2 recommends establishing effective buffers as a way of strengthening water quality protection measures. And the number one way to do this is to increase the width of the required lake edge buffer and require stream buffers. The comprehensive plan recommends a 50-foot setback from the lake for commercial buildings. Our zoning requires 35-foot setback. The developer is asking for 0 setbacks from the lake shoreline. This is clearly in conflict with the comprehensive plan and contrary to what Lake Lure residents want. I too agree that if the town council decides to go ahead with the conditional district, I urge you to at least take that second restaurant at the shoreline off the plans. The variance for the second restaurant goes far beyond what a conditional district should be allowed to do and sets the town up for unnecessary lawsuits that polarize our community and stifle any future discussions about how to properly develop our lakefront. I want my tax dollars going to us and not lawsuits. Think 20 years down the road, 25 years down the road, when all is said and done, Camp Lurecrest has sold, Blue Herons resold, other people with large properties have also sold, and every developer has asked for different variances and rules and regulations. Will our town still have the same awesomeness it has today, all that specialness we love and we enjoy? Once we open the door to conditional zoning, have we not lost the ability to say no to other developers who purchase the remaining large tracts of land on the lake? If not now, when can we say no? Picture 4 or 5 restaurants on the lake with no setbacks. Think of additional noise from these properties, additional lighting. All the things go away that we say are our specialness. So I ask again, if the town council decides to go ahead with the conditional district, I urge you to at least take the second restaurant off the shoreline. Today, we as taxpayers in Lake Lure all have the luxury of space. We see stars, we hear quiet. When I'm 85, which is not far away, I want to be able to say Lake Lure still has that specialness that no place else in the whole world has. I want to hear quiet forever. So I ask again, if the town council decides to go ahead with the conditional district, I urge you to at least take the second restaurant off the shoreline. Bob, I hope this was detail that you needed tonight, but thank you and Merry Christmas to all of you, and thank you for your service.
Thanks, Pat. Sue McClinton?
I'm Sue McClinton. My husband and I live at 301 Holmes Road. We're directly across the lake. We're Asheville residents. We spend a lot of time at the lake, especially between April and November of every year. We have so many guests coming to visit us from out of town that I feel like I operate my own B&B. As we have improved our lake house, which was built in the 1940s, we've turned it from a cottage into a year-round home. We've spent energy, dollars, trying to maintain the charming character of this treasure. We have followed the rules from the get-go, applying for building permits and variances when necessary every step of the way. We have saved the trees as requested by the lake rules, and we have respected the integrity of the views from the lake. During a family reunion in the summer of 2014, we turned our lake house over to relatives, and we rented 4 rooms at the lodge for our family members. My husband and I stayed at the lodge ourselves for 4 nights. While enjoying morning coffee on our room's lakeside porch, we were shaken by chainsaws and bulldozer noise coming from across the lake. This lasted for several days. It was impossible to stay outside. It turned out that the commotion was our new neighbors clearing their land. We like our new neighbors and have since complimented them on their home and landscaping. I make this point because I am concerned about the sounds coming from across the lake from intended events taking place at the lodge. The lake water is uninterrupted by trees and landscaping. Therefore, sound carries across the lake perhaps louder than it impacts the street neighbors. Like many lake residents, we are patient on Memorial Day, the 4th of July, and Labor Day, with increased boat traffic, noise, and party activity. However, the lodge will have lakeside restaurants, weddings, corporate events, and perhaps many other activities on the large decks, over the lake, patios, and outdoor spaces throughout the year under their business plans that concern the McClintons, our guests, our friends, and our neighbor. Perhaps Holmes Road residents should also be considered a spot zone. If the lodge property has 2 restaurants that can accommodate 100 people each, will they be having events for 200? Will they have outside sound systems for the young rockers, sufficient light for safety of their guests, and glaring across the lake and into the neighbor's view? What is the price point of the rooms and restaurants? Are we going to need a coat and tie, perhaps, to go to a white tablecloth restaurant? And do I have to dress beyond casual boat attire to have the upscale high something, hamburger? Even the rich who fly in 12 horses might enjoy Lake Lure for its charm and connection with a previous, wow. Am I over? Am I finished? Okay, so anyways, thank you very much, and happy holidays to all, and thank you for listening.
Thank you, sir. Win Hardy.
Good evening. I'm Win Hardy. I live at 218 Asa Gray Drive, and I'm a full-time resident of Lake Lure. I have a different take on this, and having sat through all these sessions, it brings to mind a couple conversations I had with friends. These conversations go back probably a year, give or take. I'm just going to kind of summarize them. In the first instance, the individual in question was speaking very affectionately and effusively about growing up in Lake Lure, what a wonderful area it was, all the good things about it. Interestingly, probably the most effusive comment, which seemed to be a recurring activity, related to sitting with friends around a fire, drinking some beer, maybe smoking some weed, things that I understand kids do. I don't, it's hearsay. I don't know. In any event, I was kind of struck by not so much the comment but by the venue, which, as it turns out, was in the lodge, actually, which at the time had been sitting vacant for some extended period of time, years, and admittedly by the individual was in a rather decrepit state of disrepair. It struck me that the fondest memory there, good times, were related to the location in question that we're sitting here discussing tonight. I'm sure that individual found it to be very much a good time. I'm not so sure that the neighbors would view it in quite the same fashion were that to be the situation today. The other conversation that I recall was with a friend with whom I had commiserated extensively on a number of occasions about the excess amount of commercial vacant properties in the area that didn't seem to move, about the lack of full-time employment, year-round employment. You know, that individual posed a question, which came out of the blue for me. Do you consider Lake Lure a dying community? I said, wow, you know, I just moved here. My wife and I don't really view it that way. We're kind of hoping it's the, you know, values we're going to appreciate. Maybe our kids and grandkids might enjoy it over time. But after some discussion, you know, clearly we both felt that that was not a good outcome. The interesting point about this to me is that same individual spoke as an opponent to this project at one of the recent sessions. And also interestingly enough, wasn't really as a result of concerns about the restaurant, concerns about the docks, the boathouse, the added rooms being developed. It was more this individual had a different vision of what that property should be. And you know, all due respect, you know, that's not that individuals, that's these guys, and you're the ones that are investing the money. My summary is to the town council. I hope that you aren't swayed by sometimes outrageous comments about Pigeon Forge comparisons, and aren't influenced by individuals who seem to, you know, at the first sign of concern, you know, roll out the, you know, lawsuit, you know, threat. So thank you very much.
Thank you, Win. Appreciate it. Maybe we have a Hotel Colorado in the making. Donald Farrell. Just a couple more, so everybody be patient.
Hi, I'm Donald Farrell. I live at 2844 Buffalo Creek Road. That's a little further out of town. I really don't live on the lake. My wife and I was trying to sell our property and actually buy a place on the lake. And I'll get back to that later. While deciding on how to vote tonight, I urge you to look at our town's comprehensive plan. The comprehensive plan in section 11.0, land use and growth management, it states, commercial lakefront development is another land use concern. The encroachment of commercial land uses along the lakefront could be accommodated under existing regulations. However, additional commercial development on the lakefront would distract from Lake Lure's beauty and potentially could decrease the environmental quality of the lake. As stated before, of these surveyed for the comprehensive plan, 83.6% cited we need to limit commercial development on the lakefront. To comply with the comprehensive plan, the developer needs to keep the charm and character of the lodge and not a plan like the current one that distracts from the existing structures. I think it is also worth noting that in the survey conducted for the comprehensive plan, more than 85% of the residents, of the respondents rather, said that new development should have limited impact on views. Currently, the proposed development changes in a very damaging way the views from the lake and views from all the surrounding properties. If the town council decides to go ahead with a construction district zone, I urge you to at least take a second restaurant at the shoreline off the plans. The variance for the second restaurant goes far beyond what a conditional district should be allowed to do and sets the town up for unnecessary lawsuits that will continue to polarize our community and stifle any future discussions on how to properly develop our lakefront. And looking at the plans, I was here the past couple of meetings, and that is a lot of stuff on 2 points, whatever acres that you've got out there. I agree with all the parking. There's not enough parking. The street is not going to be able to handle the traffic. And like I said, my wife and I has 22 acres out there across some gray rock. And speaking of property, you can get some of that property pretty cheap right now. And just think what you could do on 22 acres if you putting all that stuff on 2 acres. So we might be able to work out a deal there if y'all want. But anyway, thank y'all for your attention. Y'all doing a great job. I see the pros and cons on both ways, and I do not envy y'all's decision tonight. And Merry Christmas.
Merry Christmas. Thank you, Donald. Ed Dittmer?
Good evening. I think you all know my position on this, so I won't dwell that much on it. I just want to raise a few issues that have been raised. First of all, I've heard comments about people don't want any commercial development. We had a recent survey on an update of the comprehensive plan that overwhelmingly wanted more lakeside restaurants. So, you know, the comprehensive plan was done in 2007. The current survey was done in 2015. Shows that people want attractions on the lake. I live in a residential area that is within almost a stone's throw of Larkin's Restaurant. I've lived there for the whole time it's been in operation. It started out as Jimmy's Restaurant, and then was bought by the Hammonds and named Larkin's. A lot is being made about the noise and the light and all that. We've lived there for almost 20 years, and I, for the life of me, don't understand where these people are coming from. You hear more people going by in their boats talking than you do from people talking at a distance over at Larkin's. I just hope that you all take that into account. I fully endorse the comments made. We don't want to return Lake Lure to the way it was. So much has been done by this council and previous councils to move forward with a change for the better, to bring life to this community year-round and not just during the 3 or 4 months of the summer when many of these residents are here and enjoy it during the summer but are not here the rest of the year. We need economic development. We need good-paying jobs. We need to attract younger people. And I just want you all to consider that, what's best for the town. They could come up with only 160-some signatures on their petition. When we had a question with the town back in 1999 over a boathouse or a gazebo on top of a boathouse, my wife and I got 300 and some signatures from residents over 2 weekends just by going around and knocking on doors and explaining what the situation was. Most of the people here don't really get involved in what's going on in the town. People up the north end of the town, they don't get involved in town activities. They're content with their own little world up there at the resort. But they have 50% of the population here in the town, the year-round residents, that vote for you all into the town council. But I've talked with many of those people, and they all say, wow, hey, that sounds like a great plan. It's going to really move this town forward. Thank you. Merry Christmas.
Thank you, Ed. I'm sorry, that it's either Kay or Ray. Libel? Liebel? Libel? Okay, sorry. And you'll be up next. One of the two, you up next.
My name is Kay Lible. My home is at 166 Yacht Island Drive. I don't have a lot of statistics. I think we've heard enough of that. Most of mine is just personal observation. And just from this last summer, the only way to get to Yacht Island is Charlotte Drive. And it was a zoo all summer long. Just the little construction that was going on was just impossible. You were always having to stop and wait for a truck to get here or there to turn around and one thing and another. I know change is inevitable. I'm certainly old enough to realize that, but it doesn't have to be negative change. I've been on the lake for over 60 years, and the thing I love so about the lake, more every day really, the memories first of all, and even now to sit there at sunset or right after sunset in the evenings and listen to nothing, just the peace, the quiet, the tranquility. And that is quickly waning every year, and I understand that, and that is to be expected. Even though change is inevitable, if we have the opportunity to control the change so that it's not a negative change, then I think that's what should be considered. Charlotte Drive is impossible now. And even when it was just a dirt road when we first got our house, it hasn't gotten any better, and it's had more congestion as the years go along. I would like to think that my grandchildren could also sit on the dock at night and listen to nothing and not somebody's wedding vows taking place right down the lake or their class reunion music or whatever. If we have a chance to preserve the beauty, the quiet, the tranquility of Lake Lure, and I think that's what draws people here, then I think we should.
Very good. Thank you, Kay. Sharon or Mark? Okay.
Simply want to say thank you for the process and the rigor that we have been through a long negotiation around this project. We felt like, John, when you met with Mark and with the team back last April, your encouragement was to bring a rigorous plan and one that we felt like was optimal for us in this location, and we did. And you promised a process that would vet it out and negotiate us to a place that we would come up with an agreement that would work well for the town and well for us. And I think we've done that. And it's been a long and arduous process. No less than 9 times I've been here to share the plan in public settings. And I have been a part of this type of work in numerous communities in North Carolina, and I have never seen a process so public and so rigorously so. And so we thank you for that, because we think we come now with a better project than when we started, one that is more compatible with this community, and importantly, one that will be important for this community. We're committed to doing it well, and we ask that we get a vote tonight. We have been through a negotiation process, and we feel like we've come to a place that we have a project we can all be proud of, and one that can make an economic difference here in a very positive way. So we respectfully ask for a decision, and we ask that you support our effort to invest here and to make a difference in this community. Thank you.
Very good. Thank you, Sharon. With that, it's been an hour and a half, and I'd like to suggest we take a break and come back at 1:15 and give everybody a chance to talk to one another, and see you at 1:15.